She said I was her forever. She said no one could ever take my place. But last week, I found her wedding invitation, and it wasn't addressed to me. You ever felt your world fall apart from just one envelope? Because mine did, and then I made sure hers did too. If you've ever trusted the wrong person, hit that like button. This one's for you, because you'll understand exactly how it feels. I used to believe that some people were born to complete you, to fill the quiet spaces in your life with warmth. That was what Talia did to me. She didn't just walk into my life. She rearranged it. I remember the first night we met. It wasn't something out of a movie, nothing grand or loud. Just two people stuck in the rain outside a cafe, both laughing at how we'd forgotten umbrellas. But something about her laughter, the way it sounded like it came from a place that had been hurt, before yet still dared to be joyful, it got to me. I think I fell in love right there, in that wet silence between laughter and eye contact. She had this way of talking, like every word she spoke had weight but never felt heavy. We talked for hours that night about life, love, the kind of people we wanted to be. I told her I didn't believe in forever, that it was just a word people used when they were scared of endings. She looked at me, smiled that calm, knowing smile, and said, "Then I'll make you believe in it." And she did. God, she really did. Our days began to blend into something beautiful. Every morning, I'd wake up to her voice humming in the kitchen. Her hair tied up messily, wearing my old shirt like it belonged to her now. She'd hand me my coffee before I even asked, and I'd kiss her shoulder in return. We made promises in half sleep, that we'd grow old together, that we'd never let routine kill love, that even when things got hard, we'd fight for us. It felt real. It was real, or at least I thought so. There was this little lemon tree she brought home one weekend. Said she wanted something we could grow together. We planted it in a small ceramic pot on the balcony. Every few days she'd check it and smile, saying, "Look, it's us." Small, but growing. I didn't realize then that the roots of betrayal were already growing somewhere else, just as quietly. When I'd come home from work, she'd run to me and wrap her arms around my neck. Her perfume would linger long after she left the room, and sometimes I'd sit there, just breathing it in, feeling lucky. I told her once, "You've made me believe in forever." She looked at me, her eyes soft and steady, and whispered, "Then don't ever doubt me." And I didn't. For months. I didn't. I trusted her with everything I had. My time, my secrets, my heart. I thought love was simple when it was true. I thought honesty came naturally when you cared about someone. Looking back now, I realize sometimes people don't lie to hurt you. They lie because it keeps their story cleaner. They lie because they know the truth would destroy the fantasy they built for you. But the truth always finds its way out. It waits, like a shadow in the corner of every happy memory, biding its time. At that point, I had no idea that the same hands that held mine under the stars would one day sign a wedding invitation, with someone else's name written beside hers. It didn't happen overnight. That's the cruel part about betrayal. It doesn't arrive like a storm. It seeps in like fog. Slowly. Quietly. You don't notice it until you can't see anything clearly anymore. At first, I told myself it was work. She had a new project. Long hours, late meetings. I'd stay up waiting, watching the clock, pretending not to count how many times she texted on my way, but never came. The dinners I cooked got colder each night. Our laughter, that easy rhythm we used to have, began to sound forced, rehearsed. One evening, I asked if she was okay. She smiled, said she was just tired. I wanted to believe her, so I did. I held her hand, and for a second, I felt her pull away before she smiled again, pretending nothing happened. It was small, almost invisible. But that's how distance starts, doesn't it? Not with a fight, but with silence that feels too heavy. Her scent changed next. It sounds stupid, I know. But when you love someone, you notice everything. She used to smell like vanilla and sandalwood, something soft, familiar. Then suddenly, there was this sharp, expensive perfume I didn't recognize. When I asked about it, she said a coworker had given it to her as a gift. She laughed it off. I laughed too, but deep down, a quiet voice whispered, "You're being replaced." I tried to silence that voice. I told myself I was being paranoid, insecure. I even blamed myself. Maybe I wasn't giving her enough time. Maybe I'd become boring. I started buying her flowers again, leaving notes on the mirror like I used to. But her reactions felt rehearsed, gratitude without emotion. It's strange when someone still looks at you but doesn't see you anymore. One night, she fell asleep on the couch, her phone resting beside her. I don't know what made me look. Maybe curiosity, maybe instinct. I told myself I'd just check the time. But the moment I picked it up, the screen lit up with a message that froze me in place. "Good night, my almost wife, Aiden." My throat went dry. I kept staring at that name like if I blinked it would disappear. I remember whispering it under my breath, Aiden. It sounded foreign, wrong, like a word that didn't belong in our story. I put the phone back exactly where it was and just sat there watching her sleep. She looked peaceful, like someone who'd already chosen a new life and was just waiting for the right moment to leave the old one behind. The next morning, I didn't confront her. I smiled, kissed her forehead, and made her breakfast. I wanted to see how good her acting could get. She talked about her day, her meetings, her life, all while her phone buzzed quietly in her pocket. That's when something in me changed. The love was still there, but it stopped being blind. It turned cold, focused. I realized that sometimes silence is more powerful than anger. So I decided to wait because I knew the truth would eventually reveal itself. It always does. And when it did, it came wrapped inside an envelope. An invitation. To her wedding. It was a Sunday morning, quiet, gentle, almost too peaceful to belong to the life I was living. The sun was spilling through the curtains, soft and golden, and for a moment, I let myself forget. I made coffee, played her favorite song, and pretended everything was still normal. But fate has a cruel sense of timing. That was the morning I found it, the thing that shattered whatever illusion I was clinging to. She'd gone out early, said she was meeting a friend. I stayed home, cleaning up the apartment, trying to distract myself from the unease that had been crawling under my skin for weeks. I was wiping the kitchen counter when I noticed a white envelope tucked under a stack of magazines. It looked ordinary. No name, no markings, just sealed with gold trim. I almost ignored it. But something about it, maybe the way it was hidden, not placed, made me pause. I opened it. The first thing I saw was her name, printed in elegant script, Talia Rayner. For a second, I smiled. Maybe it was something for work, some event invite. But then my eyes moved to the line beneath it, together with Aiden Cole. My stomach dropped. My fingers trembled. The rest of the words blurred, but I didn't need to read them to understand. It was a wedding invitation. Air wedding. My chest felt tight. I couldn't breathe. The air around me turned heavy, like it was pressing down on my ribs. I laughed a dry, hollow sound. It was either that or scream. I remember whispering, "You've got to be kidding me." But it wasn't a joke. It was real, printed in gold, sealed in truth. I sat there staring at it, reading the same lines over and over again. "Join us in celebrating the union of Talia Rayner and Aiden Cole." The words mocked me. They danced in front of my eyes like a cruel play written by someone who enjoyed pain. Memories flooded in her promises, her laughter, the way she said forever like she meant it. Every moment replayed itself, now twisted by this revelation. The woman who had planted a lemon tree with me was now promising forever to someone else. I tore the invitation in half. Then I stopped. Slowly, I pressed the two torn pieces back together. Not to fix it, but to remember it. To remember the exact moment love turned into betrayal, because I knew this wasn't the end of our story. I sat there for hours, the torn invitation beside my coffee cup, her name staring up at me like a ghost. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. Something colder took over. A silence that felt powerful. The kind of silence that comes before a storm. That night, when she came home, she smiled at me, the same practiced smile she'd been giving for weeks. I smiled back. I even kissed her on the cheek. Because now, I knew. And I was done waiting. I didn't sleep that night. Not a single second. I just lay there beside her, watching the ceiling, while her soft breathing filled the room. She slept so peacefully, like someone who hadn't burned an entire world behind her. Every rise and fall of her chest felt like an insult. I wanted to wake her, to hold up that torn invitation, to make her choke on her lies. But I didn't. Not yet. I wanted her to feel the weight of what she'd done, not just through my words, but through her own guilt. The next morning, I acted normal. I kissed her forehead before she left for work, told her I'd make dinner that night. She smiled, that same fake smile she'd been rehearsing for weeks, and said she'd be late. I just nodded. My heart wasn't breaking anymore. It was hardening. That evening, I cooked her favorite meal, lemon chicken, the one she'd said tasted like home. I set the table with candles, soft music, and a bottle of wine she loved. The apartment smelled like every good memory we'd ever made. When she walked in, her face lit up. For a moment, she looked like the woman I once fell in love with. "Wow," she said softly. "What's all this?" I smiled. "Just us. We ate, we talked, or rather, she talked. I just listened. Every laugh she gave, every touch across the table, it felt like watching a stranger play the part of someone I used to know. When she reached for her glass, I slid the white envelope across the table. At first she didn't notice, but then she saw it. The gold trim, the familiar weight of it. Her hand froze. Her eyes met mine, and I could see it, the panic. She tried to speak, but no words came out. I said quietly, "You dropped this." She opened her mouth, stammered, "Elias, it's not—" "Don't." I cut her off. "Don't insult me with more lies." Her face changed from fear to guilt to something colder. "You weren't supposed to see that?" "What?" "Yeah," I said, my voice steady. "I figured." She started crying then, soft at first, then louder, desperate. She reached for my hand, but I pulled away. All the love I had for her, all the forgiveness I thought I could give, disappeared in that moment. "You promised me forever," I said. "Was that just something you say to everyone?" She shook her head, tears streaming down. "It's complicated, no," I snapped, my voice rising. "It's not. It's betrayal. It's choosing him while sleeping beside me." The silence that followed was sharp, like broken glass between us. She tried to touch me again, but I stood up. My chair scraped the floor. "You took my forever," I said, my voice trembling. "So I'll take yours." I left her sitting there, crying at a table set for two. A table that now felt like a funeral for everything we'd ever been. And as I closed the door behind me, I made a promise not to her, but to myself. This wasn't over. Revenge wasn't something I planned right away. It started as silence, the kind that follows an explosion. I didn't yell, didn't break anything, didn't beg her to explain. I just walked out that night and let the truth sit between us like a ghost. She tried calling me for days, left messages that sounded rehearsed. "Please, Elias. Let me explain your misunderstanding. It wasn't like that." But there's no misunderstanding a wedding invitation with someone else's name. There's no explanation that makes betrayal sound noble. For the first few days, I wanted to disappear. But pain has a strange way of shaping you. It either breaks you or sharpens you. I chose the second. I started paying attention, collecting details, quiet pieces of her new life that she thought I'd never see. Through a mutual friend, I found out when the wedding was, where it was, even what dress she'd chosen. Ivory lace, the same shade she once said she'd wear if she ever married me. The irony was poetic. A week before the wedding, I sent Aiden a message. No words, just screenshots. Every "I love you" she'd sent me in the past month, every picture she'd texted from work trips. No threats, no name, just proof. I didn't want to tell him what to do. I wanted him to see her the way I finally did, a woman built on beautiful lies. The night before the ceremony, Talia called me again. Her voice cracked through the phone. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. I laughed softly. "Doing what?" "I'm just letting the truth do what it always does, destroy what's fake." She hung up on me. I didn't call back. The next day, I stood across the street from the venue. It was a beautiful garden setup, white flowers, golden lights, and people dressed like they were celebrating a fairy tale. I watched her walk down the aisle, radiant, smiling, holding her bouquet like the world was perfect. I almost pitied her. Almost. Then it happened. Just as the officiant began to speak, Aiden stepped back. His expression changed. Confusion, anger, disgust. He reached into his jacket, pulled out his phone, and held it out toward her. From where I stood, I couldn't hear their words, but I didn't need to. Her face said everything. She froze, the color draining from her cheeks. The crowd began whispering. Aiden tossed the phone on the ground, turned, and walked away. The whispers grew into chaos. Guests murmuring, her friends trying to calm her down, photographers lowering their cameras. Talia's perfect day crumbled right there in front of everyone. I watched her fall to her knees, clutching her bouquet like it could save her. I didn't smile. I didn't cheer. I just whispered to myself, "That's forever, right?" Then I turned around and walked away. Calm, quiet, free. For the first time in months, I felt light. Because revenge isn't about destroying someone else's life. It's about reclaiming the pieces they stole from you. And as I walked past the gates, I realized something. I didn't need her apology. Karma had already spoken for me. People think revenge is the end. That once you've seen karma unfold, you walk away healed. But the truth is quieter. After the wedding chaos, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt empty. Like I'd burned down a house that I once called home and now stood staring at the ashes. I'm sure if I'd won, or just lost differently. For weeks I didn't hear from her. I didn't expect to. I imagined her trying to piece her life back together, facing questions. Whispers the judgment of everyone who'd seen her downfall. Sometimes late at night I'd catch myself wondering if she'd blamed me or herself. Maybe both. But I never picked up the phone. She made her choices and I had finally made mine to let her live with them. I moved out of that apartment. Packed everything that reminded me of her into boxes. The photos, the mugs, even the lemon tree she'd once called our future. I thought about throwing it away. But I didn't. I took it with me. Somehow it felt like keeping a piece of the pain alive until it meant something else. Starting over wasn't easy. The nights were long, quiet, almost too still. I missed the sound of another voice, even if it had been lying to me. But somewhere in that silence, I started hearing something else myself. My own thoughts, my own rhythm. I went back to the gym, reconnected with old friends, started writing again, things I'd stopped doing when I was too busy trying to keep someone else happy. One morning, I placed the lemon tree on my new balcony. The leaves had browned a little from neglect, but new buds were growing. It hit me then. Some things survive even after the worst storms. You just have to give them a chance. Weeks later, I got a message from an unknown number. It was her. Just one line. "I'm sorry." No explanations. No excuses. I stared at it for a while, then typed back, "So am I." And that was the last time we ever spoke. I've learned something since then. Love doesn't destroy you. Lies do. The person who betrays you doesn't take your worth away. They only expose their own emptiness. And forgiveness isn't for them. It's for you. So you can walk forward without carrying their ghosts. I still don't believe in forever, not the way she meant it. But I believe in moments, real ones, that don't need promises to be true. I believe in rebuilding yourself from the wreckage and realizing that peace isn't found in revenge. It's found in release. As I stand on that balcony now, watching sunlight fall on the lemon tree that somehow survived it all, I smile. Not because I won, but because I'm free. If you've ever been broken and still found a way to rise, hit that like button. Share this story. Someone out there needs to know karma doesn't miss, and healing always finds you.